another day for you to manifest your promises. Another moment, another season for a breakthrough. Another level say.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, WMBM listeners and the World Wide Web. Welcome to another broadcast of Breakfast and Breakthrough. I am your host, Apostle Johnson, along with Prophetess Johnson. And today, Prophetess is not with us, so today we have Pastor Latara Davis sitting in with us on today. I'm excited about the broadcast on today. The broadcast that we have on today, amen, is something that I do believe that will help someone on today. Good morning, Pastor Davis. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm well, Apostle. Thank you for having me this morning.
Okay. Today we're talking about surviving domestic violence.
Yes.
We know that domestic violence is something that that goes on. Can I just be real? Surviving domestic violence not only in the world but also in the kingdom, because we also have folk that deal with domestic violence
Yes.
at home, and domestic violence is dealt with on different levels. So today we have a special guest with us, Miss Candace Pearson. How you doing, Miss Candace?
Good morning, Apostle. I'm doing wonderful.
Okay. Before we get started, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, I'm a 35-year-old single mother of two beautiful kids. I'm an active member at True Praise Family Worship Center in Hollywood, Florida, under the teaching of Overseer Kevin M. Williams.
Amen. Dynamic teaching.
Yes,
Yeah.
very dynamic.
Yeah, that's my friend, my brother. Amen. Now, dealing with domestic violence, I was doing research before the show on the internet, and I googled some information, and it says that every 9 seconds in the U.S. a woman is assaulted or beaten.
Mm-hmm.
Every 9 seconds, and then it says
Wow.
around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. Most often, the abuser is a member of her own family.
Yes.
Now, with that being said and known, Miss Candace, I know you're here today because you are a survivor of domestic abuse. So I want to ask you a question. How did you get involved in an abusive relationship and with an abusive person?
Well, me and him started out as teenage friends. I never knew he was abusive because as a friend, he was very sweet, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I was 15 when I met him.
Okay.
We got into a serious relationship around the age of, I think I was about 24 when we started dating seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew that he was a violent person. I never knew he was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I was blind by love, but I would say that I got involved with him because he's not in the church. He's saved, but he doesn't go to church, and I should have waited on God.
Okay, so you was in church.
I'm active in church.
Okay, active in church, and he was not attending church.
Nobody's ministry.
Okay. At the time, did you love him?
I thought it was love.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What was the first sign that he was abusive?
The arguments. It started off with the verbal abuse. He was always calling me out my name. The verbal abuse got more aggressive. I was scared to argue with him because I didn't know what the next step would be because his tone of voice. He used to force me to have sex when I didn't want to have sex. If I said that I wanted to leave, he would threaten to kill me. He said I wasn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So it started off more verbal than physical.
Okay. In your opinion, what are some of the warning signs that young ladies and women are to look for dealing with a person that's violent and abusive?
When your partner belittles you, he forces you to have sex, he wants to control you at all times. He makes you emotionally numb or helpless. He threatens to kill you. You avoid arguments with him, and you're fearful of your partner. You're very fearful of him.
Okay, I just want to ask a question because I know you say you were in church, you were in ministry. I just know that as women, we sometimes put the good on the outside. Was there anybody that you could go to or felt comfortable enough sharing what you were going through or dealing with at home?
No, I didn't want anyone to know what I was dealing with at home. Oftentimes when you're dealing with that and you know that you're in church and you shouldn't be straddling the fence, you keep that personal information to yourself. You just battle it alone until you're able to have the strength to walk away.
And that's the point I was trying to make. I know that a lot of times women, especially in ministry, or the ones that are really active in ministry and have others looking up to them, it's sometimes hard for you to really come to grips that you're battling something in your life when you're the one that's trying to help everyone else with their battles in their lives. So that was the point that we were trying to make, because I feel like that's a lot what women are going through in their lives. So in your opinion, which type of abuse is more damaging to young adults? Is it verbal abuse or physical abuse? In your opinion, what damaged you the most in this relationship?
I believe it was the verbal abuse. Physically, he only hit me one time, to the point that they had to glue my face together on my forehead. But the verbal abuse was constantly. And to me, I feel that I can heal from a physical wound, but the verbal abuse, it embedded itself and it always comes up. So I have to be constantly reminding myself of what God says about me when his voice comes up in my mind to say, you're fat, nobody wants you. So you have to constantly remember that God said that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, because his words, his verbal abuse is embedded in my soul. Wow. So I had to be delivered from his verbal abuse.
Wow.
Okay, now, I just heard you make a statement. You said that your face had to be glued. What happened? You know, what type of injury was that?
What happened was I called myself breaking it off. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I came home and he was on my porch waiting. So he was saying that me and my son really didn't go where we went, where I said I was. So we started arguing and he threw me against the wall. That was his first time ever putting his hands on me. So at that time I was afraid. I ran into the bathroom, which is the worst place for you to ever go when you're in a domestic violence relationship. So when I went there, we were tussling, and he slammed my head into the tub, which was fiberglass.
Wow.
So I had a scar on my forehead that was to my skull bone. So they had to glue the skin back together.
Okay, now my question to you is, what excuse did you give the hospital once you reached there? Because I know they have police officers that be in the emergency room due to gunshot victims and rape victims. So when you came in as a domestic abuse victim, what lie or what excuse did you give them to cover up, you know, what he did to you?
It's funny that you say that, Apostle, because I didn't give an excuse. Actually, I called 911 after it happened. When I got up and the blood was gushing out my head, I called 911. I called my parents. My parents and the police arrived to my house at the same time, but he had left me. He left. So when they got there, I gave them his name. I gave them everything about him. But the part is, I gave him his name. I gave him everything about him. But 3 months later, I went back.
Wow.
Wow.
What that will bring us to our next question. What brings a person to the point of walking away? You say you went back, and you don't believe that it was love.
3 months later, I went back, and 2 months after I went back, I got pregnant with my daughter.
Wow.
So at the point, I thought At that time, I thought I was in love with him. Only to figure out now when I look back at it, it was lust. I don't believe it was love. And I think I was so much into him to where I let so much go on and I didn't realize whose I was, to where I just went on with anything he gave me and anything he did. So only you know when you've had enough.
Right.
Only the person going through it knows when they had enough and they're tired of settling. And I came to the point that when loving him started hurting me, it was time for me to walk away.
Right. So you can attest that in this relationship, you lost a little bit of yourself and you had to find your way back to who you really were.
Correct.
Okay, now, with all this going on, you were still attending services.
Still attending services. Some services I didn't attend. Found myself backing out more and more of the things that I was supposed to do, the things that were entrusted to me by ministry. Find myself slacking up very much because I was so in tune to wanting to be with him.
Now, I'm gonna say this. I know my mom and my dad was married for like 35 years until the Lord called my mom to come home and be with him. Right now, to this day, my daddy has not remarried no one because he's madly in love with my mom. But I have seen where in the older days, coming up, where husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend would get into, husband and wife would get into a fight, and the pastor would encourage them to stay together. Husband punching wife in the eye, wife cutting husband with a butcher knife. You know, I'm just talking about real stuff. You have where husband have choked wife literally to one breath of her life being gone. Wife has put potash and threw it on the husband. You know, this old school stuff that I'm talking about.
Yes.
And and when they would go for counseling, the pastor would say, just stay submitted, woman of God, just stay humble and submitted to your husband, or man of God, just continue to love your wife as Jesus loved the church. And, and this was the counseling that they received. Now, I'm finna say this, and I know this might not sit well with everyone, but that type of counseling nowadays will find folk in the graveyard.
Correct.
Because now we're dealing with a whole nother level of abuse, and I'm talking about not only in the secular, but I'm talking about in the kingdom also, because you have some folk sitting up in church every Sunday, they're smiling, they're clapping their hands, but the moment service is over with, they're going home and they're getting kicked to sleep. They're getting punched in the face, punched in the eye, physical abuse, sexual abuse. They're being beat. They're being held as slaves in their own house. They can't look at another person in service, because if they do, they're gonna get beat to one end of their life, because the jealousy part,
Yes.
That rises up in that person. And the thing of it is that we're living in a day now where I'm just sorry, if somebody is taking their feet and stomping on your back pockets, and if somebody is kicking you physically to sleep and beating you to the inch of your life, I think it's time for you to find a new area and zip code.
Yes.
Now, I can attest to what you're saying, because after I had the first physical abuse encounter, I did go to my pastor, and I went to his wife, and their exact words to me was, I need to leave because he's not the man that God has for me.
That's right.
But as a young adult, young adults, we don't want to be alone. Alone is a positive fear factor for us. We want a mate. We're not comfortable, and we don't like to turn our love life over to God. We want to help him with it. We want to find our own mate. And when they told me to leave, I stayed.
Wow.
Until, like I said, I had enough. But if I would have listened to them years ago when I first brought him to church with me, and my pastor said,
Wow.
no.
So you
I
did
would have
bring him to
never.
church.
I brought him to church. He was willing to come to church. And my leaders told me off the rip, no. But if I would have listened to them then, I would have never encountered what I encountered.
Wow.
Wow. I want you to put a pin in it right there because we're gonna take what we call a cappuccino break here on Breakfast and Breakthrough, and we're gonna come back. But on this cappuccino break, what we do, we make the announcements that we need to make. I know that you announced your ministry that you attend when you first came on. My brother in the Lord, my covenant brother. What do y'all have going on right now at your ministry that you would like everyone to know about?
Well, right now, coming up the July 23rd through July 25th of 2013, we're having a youth revival. It's called Prepare for Greater, where the services will be beginning promptly 7:30 p.m. nightly. We're asking that all ministries bring their youth out to this event. You don't want to miss the mighty move of God. And remember, the youth, they're our next generation to reach and teach someone.
Amen. Amen. Now, I want to, on this cappuccino break, I want to talk to everyone that has bad credit. If your credit is bad, and you know you ready to be house ready, car ready, you ready to go get that new house, that new car, but you know your scores are preventing you to go and get the house or your dream car, you need to go over to Triple Platinum Consulting Group Credit Restoration Company. They are located in North Miami Beach. They get results and they are economical. $350 is all they charge. They do $50 down and $50 every 2 weeks. You need to call them today. That's at 305-354-7818 and let them know that the apostle, amen, had you to call. Now that we're done with the cappuccino break, we want to get back into what you said right quickly. And you said that you brought him to church and your pastor them told you.
Yes.
They told you
Warning comes before destruction.
that this young man was not the one.
Correct.
Okay, now, what was it that caused you not to adhere or listen to what the wisdom that they had given you? What was it so much that you thought you? Because the reason why I want to ask this is because I have spoken to a lot of, because my family's full of women, but they have been some of them have been abused in relationships, and their main thing is that they thought they could change him.
I did.
Wow.
But I'm learning now that no matter how much you want to change a person, change only comes when the individual wants it as well.
Wow.
I thought I could save him. I thought I could change him.
Wow. And see, the thing is that I've come to find out you can't change a person, especially when they grown.
Exactly.
You can't re-raise them. You can't re-raise a man. And watch this, especially if you looked at the physical and thought you had a man and he's a boy in the inside.
Absolutely.
Because boys throws temper tantrums.
Yes.
And when they throw temper tantrums, they like to throw their toys and their trucks. So since I don't have toys or trucks, I'm gonna put my hands on you.
Yes.
And see, the thing is, watch this. He's a boy when it comes to handling responsibility. But when it's time, quote unquote, when the lights go off, then you want to be a man because now you want to do manly things. And see, that's a person that has not been raised or reared the right way. There's a deficit in their lives somewhere. A lot of abusers have low self-esteem.
Wow.
And can I tell you something? A lot of abusers, I know somebody might laugh on this, but I'm telling you, I done did my research. Look at women abusers. When they came up through school, they really wasn't a popular person with the ladies. They really didn't start off having a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and knew how to treat her. And watch this, they didn't have a father figure in the house to show them how to treat a person. I always tell all my members, my daughters, my spiritual daughters in the at my service, I tell them, I say, look, if you want to know how a man is going to treat you, watch how he treat his mama.
Oh, wow.
Because if his mama carried him for 9 months and he cuss her out, punch her in her face, talk about her, call her all out her name, what you think he gonna do to you? She carried him for 9. She birthed him into this world. So his allegiance to her is greater, because he has a debt to her because she birthed him into this world.
Right.
But if he will treat her like that, what make you think you gonna change him in a few days? You gonna change him in a few months.
You're right. And my overseer says the same thing. Watch how he gives to his mom and watch how he treats his mom. And if I would have looked at all those warning signs, I would have knew, because he don't treat his mom.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. What advice would you give to our listening audience that may be dealing with this type of domestic abuse or verbal abuse?
I would tell them to know their self-worth and don't settle. You don't deserve to be abused. And being abused is not what God has destined us for.
That's right.
So until you know your self-worth and you know who you are and whose you are, you'll settle.
Wow. And I believe a lot of that comes from our men not being in place, especially when it comes to our daughters.
Right.
And they didn't have a role model to show them what a man to look for. They don't have a role model for a man in their lives. So their dad wasn't there. So they don't know that daddy can tell me he loved me and I don't have to give him anything physically.
That's correct. We look for love in the wrong places.
Yeah, daddy I don't have to believe that love is when you punch me in my eye or you choke me to 1 inch of my life or you degrade me in public. And I just want to say to the young ladies out there, and I just want to say to the listening audience, look, if you know that you are with a person that is not treating you the way God intended you to be treated, I think it's time for you to find the exit, because your life is not worth their abuse.
Amen. That's powerful. I know a lot of times we make excuses for things that take place in our life. And a lot of time domestic violence is the fact that you dealt with it. You'll say, well, at that time I had low self-esteem. And I don't know if that will be the case in every aspect of a domestic violence abuse. But after the storm, Candace, what are some of the things that you can give God glory for from your life?
I can give God glory that the situation in the storm made me into the woman I am. It changed my self-image. It pushed me into the arms of God. And it lets me know that I don't have to settle, and settling is not an option. I can just wait on what God has for me, because I do believe that he has someone for me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Amen. Listen, we know that we was talking about domestic abuse, but I just want to flip the script just for a minute. Not only are women being abused, but you have men being abused by women.
That's true.
And the thing is that when they call the police and the police come, they chuckle and laugh. You let this little woman beat you. You let this little woman punch you in your eye. So that's a whole nother whole nother subject that we're gonna get on. Amen. But remember. Remember, listen, no one has the right to put their hands on you, man or woman. Keep your hands to yourself and let's walk away instead of being abusive. Listen, this has been another broadcast of Breakfast and Breakthrough. Remember, This weekend is Father's Day weekend. I need you to get on the phone, call your daddy, send him a text, let him know Daddy, I loved you. Daddy, I love you. Daddy, I can't live without you. Let your daddy know, amen, that he is, amen, a big part in your heart, even if he's not around. Listen, I tell everyone, they say, my daddy is not here. He did his part. He helped get you here, and God got the rest. Amen. So just remember, amen, love on your daddy. Amen. If your daddy figure is an uncle or a brother, a nephew, love on them. And remember, at Breakfast and Breakthrough, we always on the cutting edge of every topic. This is your host, Apostle Johnson, along with Pastor Davis, and we will see you again next month on the second Saturday of Breakfast and Breakthrough. Amen. Go to the Facebook page, Apostle Dashe Johnson, and let me know how you're loving the show. God bless you, and I love you.
Manifest your promises. Another moment.
The preceding has been a paid advertisement. The advertisers are solely responsible for information presented during this program. The information presented is not necessarily supported, endorsed, or promoted by WMBM, New Birth Broadcasting, its staff, management, or advertisers. Views and comments expressed on this program are not necessarily those of New Birth Broadcasting Corporation, its staff, or advertisers. Gospel AM 1490 WMBM.
Did you hear? Xfinity just lowered its already low introductory price for its new Internet Plus package for 10 days only. Until June 21st, get $10 off their Internet Plus package.